the heart of the matter that we're here this morning is to listen to IPI's presentation in regards to 7A1 to allow to operate less than 4 or 5-star facility, A2 to allow to open phase development in stages.
When the Lottery Commission met on August 30th to entertain IPI's request for an extension of the initial gaming facility, we also made a request to operate less than a 5-star hotel, which is a requirement of our license agreement, as well as a request to operate completed portions of the development. Unfortunately, our request was tabled pursuant to your legal advice, and so we're here again trying to make the same request as we previously made. As I explained in during the August 30th meeting, the rationale behind requesting to operate less than a 5-star hotel is because we do not know what the rating is for Mariana Resort. We have been advised by DPL that they don't want the Mariana Resort to be torn down, to demolished, if there's nothing that's going to go up in its as a replacement immediately. Our initial submission on our RFP, when the Marpi land was RFP'd, was that we would demolish Mariana Resort and landscape it. DPL's concern was that it's a $33 million asset, and they wanted that asset to remain until there was something else that was that had more value to replace it. So in order to protect ourselves, the company, we requested that we be allowed to operate something. We requested for language to be included in the license agreement that allows IPI or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates to operate less than a 5-star hotel. It's purely for compliance purposes and to protect the company. In addition, we had our experience with the initial gaming facility was that the Casino Commission had raised the issue after the third amendment to the license agreement extending the construction of the initial gaming facility, that IPI was not allowed to operate the casino if there are portions of the initial gaming facility that was not yet ready for operations. So what we did was we entered into amendment number 4, where the commission authorized through an amendment of the license agreement for operations of phase developments. In other words, when the casino was done and we had all the necessary permits, we would be allowed to operate it.
Is this in relation to the one down in Garpa?
Yes, sir. The initial gaming facility. Yes, sir. For the initial gaming facility. And so, in anticipation of any objections that were going to be brought up, we inserted as part of our request to operate completed portions of the development instead of just being able to having to operate everything at once when it's completed. Our request for the August 30th meeting was in response to the concern that was raised by the CCC, so that if there was a concern that's going to be raised up north, being allowed to operate in the different phases of the development, that would be addressed by amending the license agreement. So those were the 2 reasons why those requests were made. Chair, all we're asking for is basically a language to be inserted that says, with regards to Mariana Resort, IPI is authorized to operate, and it does not run afoul of the 5-star or 4-star requirement. Because to be honest with you, right now we don't know whether it's a 3-star. We don't even know if it's a 2-star. We've never been on the property. Unfortunately, we have not been given the opportunity to have our due diligence done. It's kind of like, it's akin to buying a car. So IPI has submitted to an RFP for management, but we have not been onto the property to make an assessment of what it is we're supposed to be managing, number one, or who we're supposed to manage, or what their statuses are.
So, one RFP is to manage the property, that's correct, and the other one is the land use.
Yes.
So, right now, what we're discussing in relation to item number 7A1, operate less than 4 or 5-star facility, is the current Mariana Resort, and this is for managing the property, nothing to do with things.
There are two things going on simultaneously. We do have we submitted to there was an RFP that was issued for the property itself. We submitted to the RFP. We were the only ones that submitted to the RFP, as far as I understand. There was an RFP that was issued for management of Mariana Resort. If we get the RFP, if we are awarded the RFP to manage the property, and that management contract is only for a year. Once we have the property, if we are awarded for the property as well, then we own the property. It's going to mesh together.
This reference to integrated resort, you're just asking with regards to the amendment for property management of Mariana's Resort.
No, actually, it's not just the property management. Because if the property management contract ends within the 1 year, and Imperial IPI is awarded the land, we still need amended language in there to authorize us to operate something less than a 4 or 5-star hotel.
Correct, but with the the requirement on the license, that I'm sure at some point, the language with respect to the integrated resort, to build or refurbish or whatever the case may be, needs to be at a 4 or 5-star level.
The plans for Mariana's Resort is not to refurbish it. The plans for Mariana's Resort is to demolish it. That's our original plan when we submitted to the RFP. The reason why we were not going to build anything on it is because the RFP gave us 2 years to complete any construction. There was no way that we could that we could go in, get all the permitting requirements, demolish the building, and then be able to build on it. So, in the planning phase, it was determined that it was best to build on something, or on just raw land, and then later on come back and demolish, later on come back and build on Mariana's Resort.
Basically, the intent of the request also so you can continue operating Mariana's Resort until such standard of the facility is built, which will be at a 5-star, 4 or 5-star level. And then at that point, you will demolish the current facility. Assuming we give you this authorization, would that mean that Mariana's Resort will stay open for the duration? I mean, right now they're set to close on September 30th. And Chair, just so you know, I grew up in San Roque. Basically, that's what's not around. A lot of those people that's working there, I know them. So I'm really concerned economically for their livelihood. And I honestly don't see what's the issue as far as authorizing a company to continue operation while they're building. And that's why I was very adamant about bringing this issue up and putting it to rest. Either we approve it or we disapprove it. I'm not too much keen about tabling it. So, and that's why I asked you if, assuming that we give you this authorization and barring any issues with, business license and all that other stuff, IPI is willing to continue the facility will remain open, and those guys will still be there. That's all.
And that's another thing that we've always made clear when we were in our RFP. When our response to the RFP to DPL was that if we were awarded the RFP and Mariana's Resort was still in operations, that we would continue, all the employees were going to be absorbed by IPI. Because I know that was a concern also that was raised by DPL. We made clear in both RFPs that we would absorb them. But even as far back as when we submitted to the land RFP, which was in 2016, we made clear that we were willing to absorb the employees of Mariana's Resort if they were willing to come work for IPI. Chair, just to be clear, I'm not asking that any other provision of the license agreement with regards to the requirement of what we build be amended. I honestly, I don't think they should be touched at all. If we could just have language in there that says you are authorized to operate Mariana's Resort whatever, at whatever level, that's our concern. It doesn't meet the level that we're authorized to operate. There's only one provision in the license agreement that says that you can operate an existing facility, and that's the initial gaming facility. But it also says that even if you get an existing facility, you have to refurbish it. And I'll be very frank, we have no interest in refurbishing Mariana's Resort.
IGF's the one down here.
Yes, sir. The reason why we want to operate it is because this is an answer to a call that was raised by DPL. It's a concern that they have, and we wanted to make sure that we address those concerns.
Sorry, can we go back to the portion of number 2? I'm trying to understand what does this entail, and since we already have addressed some of this issue with amendment number 4, if I'm not mistaken, are we trying to do the same for this new phases? Is that a requirement put forth somewhere, or is just you guys foreseeing future issues?
Yes, Chair. So amendment number 4 specifically allows only specifically that we operate the initial gaming facility in phases.
What are the phases?
Well, so like for example, let's use the initial gaming facility. Within that development, we have restaurants, we have a spa, we have a casino, we have the hotel rooms. So what we did was we made sure that we had language in there that would allow us to operate. For example, the casino was the first one that opened. Once we got all the necessary permits, we opened it up. Once that was done, the restaurant Chairman M was done, completed. That's what I mean. Yes, we open as we're done instead of waiting until the entire thing is done to open. That's basically what that means.
I guess holding IPA to a certain standard with regards to, the IGF is a whole different story. So what we're discussing here is in relation to the different phases. At some point too, holding IPI to that standard, i.e. the requirement that it needs to be completed.
Disclosing the plans, I mean, this is in the RFP, is we were going to build, for example, let's say we're required to build 800 rooms for phase 1. So let's say theoretically it's 3 different hotels, 200 room, 300 room, 200 room. We don't want to wait until we're done with all 800 rooms to operate. We want to be able to, if we're done with hotel number 1 with 200 rooms, then we'd be allowed to operate hotel number 1 while hotel number 2 is being constructed.
That's for down.
Yes, that's for Marpi.
Oh, Marpi.
That's for Marpi, yes.
Would it be logical, I guess, to ask a question that, can that be put into a time schedule as well, the phases now?
With regards to allowing to open and phase development in stages, I'm not able to respond whether we can table that and still move on and operate Mariana's Resort in the event that we're allowed to operate less than a 4 or 5-star facility. In order for us to operate and manage Mariana's Resort, we feel that for us to begin the construction and also manage Mariana's Resort, we would need to be allowed to open a phased development. And the reason why is because if the management contract ends and IPI pursuant to the land agreement or the land RFP, let's say we enter into the lease, we would also be given control of the current Mariana's Resort. So we would still need that language to be allowed to operate in stages because Mariana's Resort would be done. We'd be operating it. We don't want to wait until we're done with number 1 hotel, number 2 hotel, number 3 hotel.